Past week's in the books. Dane's high score, while players on his team still remain healthy out of what's left.
For now.
But we opened up on Thursday night with what was expected to be a blowout. Actually started out pretty tight, and then
unless you talk to Giants fans,
pulled away. But the game did feel really close for the first half or first three quarters.
It was tied at halftime, wasn't it? It was 14,
Patriots
14.
35, Giants 14. It felt like a 24-14 game.
Yeah, I think the problem was Giants fans thought with Daniel Jones that all problems were solved.
Well, yeah.
And I think you saw that.
The Patriots' defense is
it's good.
really shining.
He also looked bad. Like, it wasn't just that their defense looked good. He looked bad. And the Giants' defense is still terrible. You know, it's who the Giants are.
It was like 6 minutes left in the fourth, and they were down by 7 with the ball. Stuff like that makes you believe in the Giants. But the other problem is the Giants, and this is coming from an Eagles fan that owns lots of Giants fans and all my fantasy Giants players and all my fantasy teams. They didn't have Saquon. They didn't have Sterling Shepard. They didn't have Evan Engram. Their top 3 threats. So
Golden Tate stepped up though.
He did. Yeah.
And I would contend.
And Wayne Gallman was out too.
Watching the game, Daniel Jones, the defense. It was clearly the first NFL level defense that he really got pushed out there against, like, good defense. And they're all NFL defenses,
right.
But like a high end one. And he struggled with accuracy. He struggled with looking flustered. And that's the thing. That's where you can worry. Like, that's the hump he's got to get over. He's got all the tools in his bag. Can he kind of get to that point where he can read those defenses and work on the fly? Because that's where a lot of quarterbacks break. There's a ton of guys with a ton of talent. I actually still don't buy the Patriots offense. I'm not at all in on it.
Agreed. Gordon is very fluky right now.
He got hurt too.
Yeah, and this has been like happening on a week-to-week basis. It looks like he's getting dinged up. Jacoby came out. Jacoby looks good. He's not developed yet, though.
He's not. You don't want him to have to be your number one receiver.
Right.
Did you see who's back in practice this week? N'Keal Harry.
Antonio Brown. The Giants' defense is so bad. They scored 35 points, and some of it was garbage time. They don't look sharp. They look like
good in the first half, though.
Yeah, and I think they wane, and the same thing happens where they run out of targets, and it just seems like all that stuff that everyone says where they're missing this big target, they're missing Gronk, they're missing a number one receiver. You do see those holes show. I'm sure we'll get into the other teams later. They have played a really disgustingly weak schedule, so we'll see coming up. They have some better games. Not in their next 4 games. They got to play the Ravens. We'll see what they look like against the Ravens, and then going forward, they have some tough games at the end of the year.
I think they're slightly ahead of the Cowboys right now.
Yeah, I definitely think they're ahead of the Cowboys. I'm not going to – you guys can lay into me when we get there. But the Patriots, I don't think they're a 6-0 football team. I think part of that's their schedule. I still think they're a really good football team. I think their defense is one of the top 3 defenses.
Are they the best team in the league right now?
No.
I expect them always at halfway break after 8 games to be 6-2.
Yeah,
I think that's usually what happens, and I expect them to start off a lot more troubled than they have this year.
And I think what starts them off ahead in previous years when their offense was clicking more and they had to figure out their defense, their defense is good to go this year. It's a top 3 defense.
Is, fantasy points wise, they're on pace to be the highest scoring defense ever.
Yes, and I think in terms of just skilled position players, like I think the Bears are a better defense.
Yeah,
I think there's a couple of defenses that are better top to bottom, but the Patriots secondary is just insane.
Good.
So it's very hard to win in this league when you can shut down an entire passing game. But they have a lot to figure out. I think this is I said this to Jim before we started. A lot of teams we talked about last week, where were teams we're going to get a lot of clarity. I do think for the most part this was one of the games where the Giants are a 2-4 team and the Patriots are close to a 6-0 team. I think it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Agreed. Panthers 37, Buccaneers 26.
In London, mate.
This was...
And they had to make it early too, man. I didn't even know it was on. I wake up and it's already halfway.
But the best part is at halftime, 1 second left, they got to do a free kick. Did the Jim special. I was like, Jim, they're doing a free kick, and the announcers were just like, I don't think even Americans understand what's going on. And he missed it, which was sad. But it was cool to see it.
Yeah, anything on the edges of the rules that people rarely ever get to see. I think they should just innovate something new with kickers. Because people hate kickers. Do something to make them even more important.
They already nerfed it. They already changed the rule. Like right after that game, they changed that rule.
Oh, really?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
They got rid of free kicks?
I'm pretty sure they adjusted it. I forget how.
Stupidest thing to do.
This is another game where, like I just said, the Panthers are 4-2 and the Bucs are 2-4.
Kyle Allen.
That seems
4-0.
pretty. Yeah, that seems pretty accurate though for those two
Right.
teams. That's what I think you would get out of those teams.
That's a little high for the Panthers. I didn't expect them to be 4-2. I think with Cam Newton, they would have had a 3-3, 2-4 start. But
I don't know. I think they have all the tools. I would hope their younger players are coming into form. DJ Moore had 10 targets, 7 receptions for 70 yards. Christian McCaffrey is
scoring fantasy wise. He's averaging, I think, 4 or 5 points above the second place running back.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
He's that
per game.
He's that Todd Gurley build from like 2 years ago where 90% of their offense runs through him, except he catches the ball.
Yeah.
So it's like insane. But the buried lead, like I like Christian McCaffrey. Those receivers are coming into form, and Kyle Allen's really good. So I think 4-2 is I think it's on their high end, but I'm not surprised by it. They look good, and their defense has always been good.
For an 11-point win, 5 interceptions by Jameis.
Wow.
This should have probably been the Bucs games.
Yeah, it was.
It was those interceptions.
Yeah.
They said that Bruce Arians said that they lost the turnover margin by so much that they had no option but to lose that game. It was like impossible.
That's how it goes. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of turnovers.
Yeah.
Evans had 17 targets. Godwin 12 targets.
17 targets.
Like a god.
Yeah, they're just feeding them the ball, but I mean,
number 1 wide receiver.
Most of the throws just aren't accurate.
Yeah, and going into the season, we knew that they were a top receiving team, passing team. They just because they pass the ball an insane amount, and none of those running backs on such a high power, quote unquote high power offense are
interesting question
performing.
right here. Do the Bucs start to unload a piece?
So I actually think there are many teams this week that we're going to start talking about trades, whether it's one person, like you see the Jaguars, down to like fire sales. I think the Bucs will not part with a whole lot just because I don't think they have anything to really part with.
O.J. Howard?
What are you going to get back for him, though? I think at this point he's so undervalued that you might as well just hold on to him. If they can get a high value for him, like if somebody like the Patriots wants to overpay, maybe. I just don't see it happening because you have enough invested in him where I still think you want to see if he pans out.
Also, are there any teams that are dying for a tight end right now?
The Patriots.
Patriots, maybe?
And why do you think he's smiling?
Oh, I see.
The whole play
I
is
now
that,
understand. Okay.
The whole point is that he's exactly what the Patriots need. He's been buried in a system that doesn't exploit him, and the Patriots would turn him into what he was supposed to be. It could happen. If I'm the Bucs, I don't give up on him this quickly.
I'd take it late first if I was the Bucs trying to. You're entering rebuild right now because Jameis is balls.
You think the Patriots are willing to give up first for O.J. Howard?
Late first?
Yeah, they always give up. They always give up first.
They are better trading away their late first than actually making a pick with it.
Right.
And I think
they whiff so much on the first.
And even this year with N'Keal Harry and getting hurt quickly, I think you could even see Belichick be like, I tried a first rounder and it didn't 100% work out. I'd rather go back to the old way.
Get that last piece.
Yeah.
Right now.
And that's the thing is they're so close that you talk about a lot of these teams that are trying to trade for the last piece they need. That's aggressively the last piece they need. Like it's not even close. Like you see when we talked about the Steelers trading for Minka Fitzpatrick, you're like, that's not really the piece they need. Jalen Ramsey going forward may be the piece the Rams need. The Patriots need a big body tight end. This is how they've won Super Bowls in the last couple of years. So it'll be interesting.
So another 4-2 team. You have the Ravens 23, Bengals 17. This is closer. Bengals go to 0-6. This is a lot closer of a game than those records would actually try and tell you. And it's also partially because of Lamar Jackson having a little bit of a rough game, even though he had great fantasy production.
Yeah, I like Lamar Jackson, but this is kind of more what I expected from him throughout the year. I knew he ran for 152 yards, and then like when I statted him out, he was looking around 200 passing yards, 100 plus, rushing yards, and then a rushing touchdown and maybe a passing touchdown per game. And that's where he was at. He didn't throw for a touchdown. He ran for a touchdown, but he ran for 152 yards. So, yeah, this is about where I thought he was. When he was throwing for 300 yards a game, I was like, this is not sustainable. He's not going to stay like this.
Well, it's funny because, like you said, his passing game's down. No one's ever done what he did in this game. No one's ever thrown for over 250 yards and run for over 150 yards. No one's ever done that.
Fair.
Pretty impressive.
I mean, that is 236 yards.
Sorry, maybe it's over 200 yards. Yeah, it might be over 200 and over 150.
I mean, 150 rushing yards is
crazy.
Insane.
Did he have interceptions in this game?
He had one.
Okay.
Yeah. The Ravens, I mean, I like the Ravens. The Bengals are talking about fire sales. They're going to fire sell. They have a lot of good pieces that they can get a lot for. Geno Atkins, AJ Green, some of those young, you keep Boyd, you keep Ross, you get rid of AJ,
Bengals.
you get rid of Geno Atkins.
Joe Mixon.
I think you keep Joe Mixon. I think you keep the youngest parts. I think you're going to move on from quarterback, but I don't think AJ Green fits in that system anymore. I don't think Tyler Eifert needs to be there because CJ Uzomah is a better probably bet in terms of health.
Yeah.
So I think you go AJ Green, Tyler Eifert, Geno Atkins, potentially Carlos Dunlap. There's a lot of pieces there to trade and get pieces back. And if I'm the Bengals and I'm 0-6, like you said, Jim, week to week, they don't look that bad, and they have a lot of good younger pieces. They have a lot of pieces I think you part with to get draft picks back right now.
100% agreed. Yeah. The only highlight out of this game for the Bengals, and this is including Tyler Boyd, who's looked good in the past, Joe Mixon, they didn't look good.
No.
Andy Dalton, garbage. Auden Tate, 11 targets. You know, he looked pretty reasonable for like your WR3, but this is kind of the whole, is this John Ross, Auden Tate battle for the third wide receiver going to be the future? I'm not saying he's a 1 at all, but
that's a lot of targets. I mean, he had the most targets this game by I think 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think you hope with as the Bengals going forward. I don't want to say by committee because that's never but on any given play, Tyler Boyd or John Ross could be a 1. I don't think they are yet. But if you go, we're going to draft, we're 0-6. If we're in one of those top 3 picks, which at 0-6, I'm just going to assume that they are.
Yeah.
You're going to get a new quarterback, move on from Andy Dalton, address the offensive line, get a bunch of draft picks for defense. This is the type of rebuild where if I'm that coach, the new kid, this is the rebuild situation. This is a perfect rebuild situation. You have a lot of good pieces.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of old pieces that you can part and still get value for.
Here's the scary thing is that have they had any injuries that they've had to deal with?
Yeah,
Big injuries?
AJ Green.
I mean AJ Green, but they've had wide receivers fill in and be reasonable. I mean, yeah.
Outside of the receivers.
Right.
They lost not a lot. They lost a couple pieces on defense. You know, Vontaze Burfict, a couple older guys, and they got really old in the secondary really fast.
Yeah.
You know, so they have a lot to acknowledge on defense. Like I said, offense, I really don't think they're as bad if you can get a good quarterback in there.
I want to watch Finley, man. I want to see Finley get some reps.
Yeah.
So
smart dude.
I wouldn't. The scary thing is with all those players, I would want the ones they're parting with because you're going to see like same thing. Like if AJ Green ends up on the Patriots, I like him a lot. If I'm a Joe Mixon owner, that stinks because.
Yeah,
teams are going to, especially if they put in Finley, teams are just going to start stacking up the box and go and beat us throwing it. He's just going to do nothing.
For a team that seemed to be invested highly in Joe Mixon and 8 carries, 10 yards, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah, and then even like you said, the emergence of Tate, you go, all right, well now Ross and Boyd, I don't like them as much either. And with AJ Green coming back, I don't think you're going to get. There's 4 guys there now. That's kind of annoying. Tyler Eifert's the same way. They're playing Uzomah a lot more now.
On the flip side, Baltimore is actually locked up the connection between Lamar and Andrews. This is solidified at this point.
I'm impressed with that Lamar Jackson is throwing that much to tight ends because in the past he had thrown to tight ends and they invested heavily in tight ends during the draft. But it seemed like every game he was getting 4 reception to his receivers, to his tight ends and stuff like that. So for this guy to just go way above everyone else is kind of surprising.
Yeah, and you wonder too, even Hayden Hurst, can they get pieces for Hayden Hurst? I mean, he was a higher pick then. Yeah. And they still have Boyle too, so they actually are carrying 3 tight ends right now. And Hayden Hurst, what I think would command more value on the open market. Would you
early first?
Hayden Hurst? He was early second.
Hayden Hurst was the first that they drafted.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
First round or first tight end?
First round.
Okay, so you probably aren't. You're never going to get that back, but you can get enough value where you don't need a tight end now. Like you're
if
good.
They can get a second for it, take it.
25th overall.
Yeah. So, and the Ravens. I mean, Mark Ingram looks really good. You got to like if you have Mark Ingram. I do.
Yeah.
But he's been that bell cow. So
but
they have
RB2 on that team.
Behind Lamar Jackson.
Behind
Lamar Jackson did carry 19 times,
but
and threw it 21 times.
Mark Ingram's doing more than you would have thought you would have got out of him.
Oh,
there.
Yeah.
So the Ravens look good. They look exactly. I think you're right, Trev. They'll go. I think there's a lot of teams, we were talking about this too, that will go as far as their quarterback can take them.
Yeah, their schedule's also been very soft. Don't forget.
So when that's the whole thing, right? And that's why Tom Brady has so many Super Bowls. When you get to the playoffs, you have to be a quarterback who can win a minimum 4 games in a row. I like Lamar Jackson a lot. I don't think he's there yet. So, but we'll see going forward.
He's not there yet, but you know who is there? Russell Wilson.
Every year.
This game, okay, so Seahawks 32, Browns 28. Seahawks are 5-1, Browns are 2-4. This doesn't seem like the Browns should be 2-4 with how close they're having certain games. But I'm not claiming they should be 5-1 or 4-2, but 2-4. They're still underperforming.
I wrote it. They're like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Week to week or even quarter to quarter, you don't know what you're going to get out of them. Baker specifically. Although no, pretty much know what you're going to get out of Baker. He's terrible.
Yeah, at least 3 interceptions.
Going into the season, with
he's so incredibly inaccurate that it's a real problem. The rest of the team though is really good. You never know what you're going to get. They look competitive in this game. They look like they probably should have won this game, but they didn't. They lost this game. And the Seahawks are really good.
It was good to see Odell get 11 targets, worked into the game mix. This seems like healthy for them. Chubb, a good amount of Chubb. That was great. So it's like they have the idea of the recipe they need to be doing.
That's where I put a lot of it on Baker because Chubb looks good. Jarvis looks good. Odell Beckham clearly is awesome. And Ricky Seals-Jones, it's like if you had Njoku.
Yeah, he's Njoku the second.
He's like he's like the light version of it. So why are they bad? I mean, their offensive line isn't great, but it's a good run offensive line. Baker's just inaccurate. He just doesn't make basic throws that you have to be able to make.
Yeah, his QB rating this year is super, super low.
And the Seahawks on the Seeker side, the Seahawks usually stoked 5-1. You lose Disley for the year.
That sucks.
That's rough. I'm excited if you're a DK owner. DK is second on that team with red zone targets, so you hope they start to filter that there. Russell,
he spreads it around way too much.
Yeah, but in the red zone he doesn't. He throws to big bodies.
But the fact is, this game, no player had more than 5 targets.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing you definitely have Russ going for you. I mean, Russ is awesome. Disley leads the team by far and away in red zone targets, and that's going to be gone. Right. So you got to figure out where you're going to go with those red zone targets, and they run a lot of soft seam like up the middle. That they don't have a receiver that can do that.
Yeah,
like even DK's outside. And Lockett's smaller, and what's the third guy? He's small too.
David Moore?
Yeah. So you don't have that seam splitter anymore. So it'll be interesting to see where they allot those targets. I hope and think it would go to DK because you can still just do jump balls and just run fades on the outside instead of seam.
Do you think
plays.
Wilson's MVP number 1, or is he close to like McCaffrey or somebody else?
I think we're in such a quarterback-driven league. I think everyone would say him. I think it's McCaffrey by like a long shot because he's 95% of their offense are 4-2. They're overachieving.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's Russell Wilson so far. The team's 5-1, and on a team that to me is very Like,
yeah, I would give you that.
And he's just been he's so consistent. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't have it. I would have Russell. I'd have McCaffrey as 1A and Russell as 1B. It's really close. It would go to Russell. They don't give it to running backs unless it's Todd Gurley-like level, so Christian can keep doing it. I just think he's more essential to that offense. I think Russell's got Chris Carson's looked really good. The offensive line has looked really good.
Yeah.
The younger receivers have looked good. Their defense is really good. The Panthers have a lot more players that aren't quite playing up to snuff, but they're both really good.
I think if Carolina ends up in the playoffs, I can see McCaffrey being it. But what if? I mean, let's not forget. I mean,
there's a lot.
I know it's ridiculous, but Kyle Allen's 4-0 with this team. He's leading the team.
It's so early too. For everyone wants to talk about MVP. There's so much season left. Deshaun Watson looks sick. Patrick Mahomes still exists. Aaron Rodgers still exists.
MVP of the season, Gardner Minshew. Even though he let down this week. Jaguars 6, Saints 13. Saints are up at 5-1 without Breeze. This is great.
Good teams are going to perform. That's what it comes down to. Good coaching wins.
It's interesting.
Say it every week.
Yeah, Teddy looks good. He runs the offense different though than Drew. And if you're an Alvin Kamara owner, there has to be some concern there.
Something's going on.
This is what happens when you lose one of your giant facets. This is the Bill Belichick technique. You take away the other option and go beat us elsewhere. The good thing for the Saints is Teddy Bridgewater's doing that and going to Michael Thomas and going to their receivers and playing this underneath basically what the Patriots do to teams. And it's great. The problem is if you're a Kamara owner, he's vastly underperforming. I mean, he has 7 receptions, which is great, but he only has 11 rushes, a total
He's doing this with a high ankle sprain too. Or a light.
That's crazy, yeah.
And the Jags D, I mean, is good, but it's going to take a huge hit now going,
Well, he hasn't been playing with them for weeks.
Yeah,
I guess that's true.
Don't you get the feeling their offense? It seems like their defense is almost checked out, though.
It can be. You can start to lose the locker room when you have like your stud defensive player, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But,
Holding the Saints to 13 points is not that.
Well,
not something to look
and that's what
past.
stinks is if you're the Jaguars, you're 2-4, and a lot of those games were close. Like you could be easily 3-3, and then you're in the mix. If you're Jaguars, you should be excited. If you had a rookie contract, a rookie quarterback to hit like this, DJ Chark's coming up. Your offense looks good. Fournette looks good. Your defense has still got a lot of good parts, and you're going to be able to, add to that. It's just this year's not going to be their year at all.
DD and Chark are solidified.
Oh, yeah.
It's the 1 and 2. I don't know in which order. Marquise Lee's a bum.
He didn't. Does he even play?
He's injured. He's injured again. I'm going to drop him. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, going into the season, it seemed like there was always one guy that was going to come out on top in Jacksonville, and Chark actually didn't have as good a game as DD did this week, but he's cemented himself as the number one on that team. But it's Jacksonville's always been very flippy floppy with their receivers. So next week it could be Dede with 7 receptions, 102 yards. You just never know.
Yeah, I do think the Saints in the long run. I love Teddy Bridgewater. I do think they need Drew. I don't think 13 points is going to do it. Hopefully when Drew comes back and if he's healthy.
Do you know when he's supposed to come back? It's like week 8 or 9.
He wasn't on. They didn't put him on the injured reserve,
him, okay.
the designation, so he can come back whenever he's ready. So they said he's ahead of schedule, but it should be 6-7 weeks minimum.
Gotcha.
Their offense doesn't run the same. Like Bridgewater's average yards per reception, everyone made a big deal about that at the end of last year. That Drew's yards per reception were way down. Bridgewater's are even lower than his, so they do need. I think if they want to make a run, like they're 5-1, that's great. I think they do need Drew Brees back at full form.
Yeah, when they get him back, things will look great. Kind of like Tyreek Hill coming back, really boomed his first game back. He ended up going
5 for 80 for 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns.
10
Yeah.
targets.
It's crazy.
It looked good. Texans 31, Chiefs 24. Both teams 4-2. This will playoff game.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
absolutely.
Chiefs. This was such a fun game to watch. I still think the Chiefs, in any given quarter, are easily the best team in the league. The problem is they're crazy inconsistent right now. Their offense is scoring. I know it sounds ridiculous. Their offense scores too fast. They put their defense on the field constantly. The defense gets tired by the end of the game, and they just get blown out at the end of the game. And they score. You look at the game. They scored 17 points or something like that in the first quarter. None in the second quarter. 7 more in the third. None in the fourth. It's like.
Yeah.
They got to be a little bit more consistent. And, Mahomes is dealing with that ankle sprain, but.
And they're having trouble establishing the run as well. I mean, they ran the ball 11 times.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing is it goes.
That's not enough.
But they're scoring, so you're never.
Yeah.
You're never wasting clock.
And they scored quick, but then they couldn't score in the second, once in the third, once in the fourth. So.
What I did like from the Texans was Hyde. I was cautiously upset with it last week, but this week, 26 carries, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. He's getting the right volume. This is enough opportunity for the fantasy play that finally I will. I don't love it, but I'm happy to have it as my RB2 or RB3-ish.
Yeah.
2 or 3, I agree. The rest of the Texans' offense is awesome. There's nothing I don't like about their offense right now. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, tight end. Finally, offensive line. That Tunsil trade looks better now.
Right.
And Deshaun Watson looks like an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
I like all of those players.
Other than the interceptions.
Wow.
Yeah.
He had 2 rushing touchdowns, though.
Yeah. and we knocked that trade, and we're like, oh, the Dolphins got so much. If Tunsil is a legitimate left tackle, that trade's totally worth it.
Yeah.
You can't overpay for a left tackle. And he is. There was the stat. Deshaun Watson hasn't been sacked in like 3 games.
Which is crazy because
last year he was on the ground and running.
Even the beginning of the season, he was.
So
he was
if
on
they're
the
finally coming to form and Tunsil's a legit left tackle,
worth it. Yeah.
Left tackles are huge. They're like everything. I mean, you have rumors of Redskins wanting to move potentially their left tackle to Trent Williams. Browns. This is rumors right now.
Yeah.
The way the Redskins are performing this year at 1-5, Dolphins 0-5. I mean,
wasn't Trent Williams holding out too?
Yeah.
From what I understood, but now like the talk's starting to happen.
I gotcha.
So
okay.
He wants to get off the team.
Yeah.
And the way we're talking about possibly trading for Trent Williams is how this game felt between the Redskins.
I have no notes on this game. I literally wrote just who cares
Redskins
under the
17,
game.
Dolphins 16. Dolphins went for a 2-point conversion.
Yes,
End of the game.
I saw that.
To fail it and lose.
You know what's funny is like we were saying before, teams are who we thought they are. Like these records are accurate. These aren't accurate. they should be worse. Somehow, 6 games in the season, these two teams should be worse than 1-5 and 0-6.
There should be like another.
Yeah.
You have like wins, losses, ties, and you're a piece of shit loss.
This is that loss is worth more than 1. You're 0-9.
Keenum looked decent, not great, but decent. 13 for 25, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. AP, he got his volume. I know you don't care, Dan.
5 yards,
crazy.
5 yards per carry. 5 yards per carry.
It's
off 23 carries.
I do my research a lot. I watch every game. I watched this game for like 3 seconds. I was like, nope. It just turned it right off. They're so bad.
Yeah.
Both teams. The Dolphins, and this is right though. The Redskins won, like you said. Keenum, nice game. AP gets his volume.
What do you think of McLaurin?
McLaurin is still like, if I'm them, I'm going. That's a huge hit. You got a great find deep in the draft. You just don't have the team around him yet.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, it stinks when you get a good young player and you don't have a quarterback to throw him the ball, or a good offensive line, or a good defense, because he's just going to waste away for a couple of years, basically, which stinks for him. You hope he just gets volume upon volume, though. The Dolphins are terrible. This is the right outcome. 17-16, the Redskins do win. The Dolphins have no redeeming quality.
I've had Rosen on a team, in a Superflex team, or our team together. We've had him, started him a lot of weeks, and he gets either negative points or 3 or 6 points. He's unstartable in Superflex leagues back when he was a starter, even though he's not going to be starting now, even though he was promised and then taken away and then re-promised.
He's had such an awkward career for someone that's only been in the league for less than 2 years.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, I think it sounds ridiculous. I don't know if you guys saw the news today. Brock Osweiler retired. Sad.
Oh, R.I.P.
Career cut short.
Yeah.
By being terrible
and getting millions and millions and hundreds of millions.
This is going
to
be something similar to I think what happens to Rosen there are situations where it just works out. I'm not comparing Josh Rosen to Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, but you end up in the greatest situation possible, and you're really good. You can win all these Super Bowls and be the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm not saying he's the greatest quarterback of all time.
Josh Rosen to the Dolphins. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying hypothetically.
Josh Rosen to the Patriots. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is you can also end up in the exact reverse situation where you end up on a team that after 1 year doesn't even want you. Then you end up shortchanging on another team whose system is not one and have to learn it quickly and get thrown in too quickly. And then all of a sudden your career is 2 years in and
they're like, oh, he's terrible.
He's terrible.
Look at the teams he's played on.
And we're never gonna have known. You remember Derek Carr's brother David Carr?
Yeah.
First draft pick.
Yeah.
One of the Texans' first picks. He was a pretty good quarterback. You just never knew. You never knew what he actually was because the Texans, when they were an expansion team, had no offensive line.
Yeah.
And he was just getting destroyed. And then you get what a lot of these guys get is you get beat up for so many years, can't really hack it to a degree, and they go, okay, we'll give you $6 million to be a backup quarterback, and you do nothing. And he goes, I'll take that job. Yeah. And I'll be a backup quarterback on the Giants, I think it was, for like 7 years.
Yeah,
and
it was. Yeah.
Greatest job in the world.
Yeah.
No pressure. Got to come in every once in a while to kneel down. I feel bad for Josh Rosen, but yeah, I think his career is kind of going to be on the downswing unless he can bear down and turn it around.
Big game for the Vikings. 38. Eagles 20. Minnesota goes to 4-2. Eagles 3-3. This was a little bit of a battle.
Hey, Miles Sanders showed up for you, huh?
A little bit.
On like one play.
He had a touchdown.
Yeah. 3 receptions, 86 yards and a touchdown though.
It was cute.
On three targets.
Dalvin Cook was solid, but the rookie running back that really stood out in this game was Alexander Madison.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, 14 carries for 63 yards. I mean, yeah, this game to me, it was a passing game, and it exposed the Eagles' secondary as just how bad it is. Diggs had 3 touchdowns after, having such a slow start. 167 yards. He looked like Superman out there.
I think you said it before. Just in your response to the Jalen trade, I think the biggest loser from the Jalen Ramsey trade is the Eagles.
Not getting.
You would have hoped that they would have paid the same price the Rams paid for him.
Yeah,
and
they needed to.
Yeah, and Jalen Ramsey fixes a lot of problems on any team that has a weak secondary. If your secondary is not that great, he shuts down one side of the field, takes out the best receiver they have.
Right.
The end.
Yeah.
So it stinks. The Eagles are still a good team, but that secondary. I mean, that was their issue the last couple of years where they haven't been able to get back over the hump because they're weak, they're soft in the secondary. The Vikings, I think the Vikings are really good. Their defense is awesome. Their receivers are really good. Their running game is good. They're going to go as far as Kirk Cousins can take them. Kirk Cousins had a really good game. They won. But will he always have a good game?
What are your thoughts on the Eagles? Like, how are you feeling right now?
I mean, their running game is kind of what I expected, and it's just an entirely jumbled mess. I mean, Boston Scott was the second leading rusher on the team behind Jordan Howard.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So it's just an absolute just clusterfuck of the running game. The receiving is, it's Alshon Jeffrey, and Zach Ertz has not been performing as well as he should. He's been dropping the ball a lot. Dallas Goedert looks terrible. No, I'm just kidding.
It looks awesome. Listen, I hate the Eagles so much. They should be running Ertz in the slot and Goddard as the tight end.
Where would you rank Dallas Goedert as a tight end in the league if he was on the Cowboys?
And his name was not Dallas.
If he was Philadelphia.
Listen, you don't have to put him. Here's the thing. He's an Eagle. That's ridiculous. He's an Eagle. His name's Salt Lake. Yeah. Salt Lake Goddard. You don't have to put him on another team. You don't have to even take him out of his backup role. I still contend he's a top 10 tight end easily in the league right now.
That's a big contention.
It's just crazy. They don't use him. They don't use him enough. He's actually getting tight end 1 targets. Their other target, like Alshon's great. They're lucky he's been as good for them for as long as he has.
Yeah, he actually had more receptions than Ertz did and only 1 less target. So yeah, I think that offense. The problem is we're missing Deshaun Jackson, who was like the linchpin to that team. As you could tell the first week when he was just destroying it, and they're just waiting for him to come back from injury, and it looks like he should be back in a couple weeks. But
if I'm the Eagles, the good thing for you guys, bad thing for me, Cowboys didn't run away with the division at all.
Right.
The 3-3 is good enough for a share of the division lead. When you get him back, when you get Deshaun back, I like that offense a lot. Alshon's your big possession receiver. He's your deep threat. You run 2 tight end sets. I like that offense. And they have a ton of running backs. Like you said, it's kind of a garbled mess for fantasy purposes.
Right.
Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, all these pieces. That other guy you mentioned that I've already forgotten his name.
Boston Scott.
Yeah, there you go.
We like names of players that have cities in them.
But I just think it's one of those things where I like that. I wouldn't want a ton of those pieces, even though I have Alshon, you have Miles. If I'm an Eagles fan, I'm not freaking out yet. And Carson Wentz looks good.
Yeah. We faced a tough team, and it was in Minnesota, which always makes it a little more difficult. And the game kind of got out of hand at the end. Yeah. But I mean, the biggest issue is the secondary, and they got to do something to fix it.
You're still tied at the top of the division, so it's even if you lose this weekend, it's only a game behind. It's nothing crazy.
Big game though. Cowboys Eagles.
It feels weirdly good. The Eagles going into this game this week. It doesn't feel anywhere near as bad as the Falcons do right now. Falcons 33, Arizona 34. Falcons are 1-5. Arizona goes to 2-3-1. Matt Ryan puts up just spectacular fantasy performances.
Garbage. It's ridiculous.
30 for 36.
356 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's
just crazy.
It's a big game.
Just crazy. But
they're so bad.
I have a feeling that, in the past we'd always see Julio really being lights out. Like, he's still obviously a good threat on the field, but that offense would flow through him heavily.
Now it flows through Austin Hooper.
But like, you need to direct your game plan better to make sure you're getting something out of this.
There's no way Dan Quinn doesn't get fired at the end of the year. But they shouldn't be this bad. I don't get it. I don't quite understand why they're 1-5. Like, it doesn't. Just if you look at the pieces they have from a fantasy perspective, from a football perspective, you list those 3 receivers, that tight end, that offensive line. Their offensive line is good. That offensive line, that running back, that quarterback, and then the pieces on defense. Vic Beasley, the Grady Jarrett, Tack McKinley, all those pieces in the second. They're terrible. Why are they bad?
I don't know.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'm so confused by them.
Yeah, it just seems like there's something missing. I don't know if it's from a coaching perspective or if it's just something that's a piece that they're missing on the team, but something's not clicking, and they're 1-5, and they're losing to Arizona, who is predicted to be one of, if not the worst team in the league.
It looks like teams aren't respecting the running game that they have. It's partially what I've noticed. So you can set up defenses in certain ways because of that. But outside of that, even if you're playing behind that much, as they're always going to be, I don't think you can overcome it no matter what.
You know what the thing, too, that's kind of funny, and I just kind of realized this when I looked at the score? The Falcons, since they've been under Dan Quinn, I'm not saying they're a bad team, they always have been the team, though, that never found a way to win. You know what I mean? Like, when a game was close, or even when it wasn't close, and you were, say, up by 25, and all you had to do was run the ball, they find ways to lose.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's blame the Patriots why the Falcons lost today.
Exactly. No, I'm just kidding.
Are you telling me that the Patriots didn't win that Super Bowl and the Falcons lost that Super Bowl?
I think the Falcons lost that Super Bowl.
Let's peel it back. All I'm saying is that, but even that, their track record, previous seasons to that, was they were always the team that, would be close at the end of the game, and they'd lose by 1, they'd lose by 2. Remember the Chargers were like that for many years, where they always found ways to lose, not win.
Yeah.
And this year's another one of those years to the nth degree where you shouldn't be losing this game at all. Like, you should just have those two teams stack up just comparatively. You should crush the Cardinals.
Shouldn't even be close.
It should not be close, and they are not good. They're the most baffling team in the league to me. If I'm a head coach, when Dan Quinn gets fired, though, if I'm a young coach or the next coach, I want that team. They have so many good pieces, and from fantasy perspective, you'd still like a lot of those guys.
And they just signed Julio too.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's hilarious is like you still like Julio, Devontae Freeman, Austin Hooper is.
I love the offense.
Awesome.
Get another running back. They need to get another running back.
Yeah, Ito's not performing the way he should in that split back system. But then again, if you're coming in as a new coach, maybe you don't necessarily want that
Same system,
dual punch.
So yeah, I mean the Cardinals are still David Johnson showing flashes of what made him a first overall pick in most
Looks
redrafts. Great. His catching out of the backfield's awesome for that offense. I think that's one of those things where you could see that blow up a lot. He made a lot of really impressive catches, and you forgot for a couple of years when they didn't throw the ball how good a pass catcher he was out of the backfield.
Kyler's showing up too. 340 yards, 3 touchdowns. 27 for 37 is not as exciting, but
this is the air raid offense. This is what it is.
Yeah.
They're just going to throw the ball constantly.
Yeah.
And any one of those pieces, Pettis, Fitzgerald, David Johnson, any one of those. Give me.
It looks like a 5'11" performance over a 5'9" performance. It's kind of like how
he's standing tall in this offense with this win.
But yeah,
49ers crushed this past 2 weeks ago on Monday night, and right now they look beastly. They owned the Rams. It was not even close.
Is this the best team in the league?
So they look beastly on one side of the ball.
Correct.
Beastly enough on that side of the ball to win games like this. So I'll play the devil's advocate because Trebs likes them if you're asking that question. I think their offense is awful.
I agree. I feel like this is the Bears.
Yes.
On week 1, how we felt.
But
the offense is roughly the same, if not only slightly better. They just don't have weapons.
Kittle is great. There's nothing else of redeeming value.
100% agree.
Their defense is playing out of their minds. I don't think that defense will play up to that the whole year, where the Bears defense is built top to bottom better, where they could keep playing that way. Yes, the 49ers are good. Their defense is one of the best in the league. I don't think they're near the best team in the league.
I just think Jimmy G is a game manager until he proves something else. Other than those first 6 games he played at the end of the one season when he came over, he didn't really play last year, and he has not shown me anything other than game management. That's it.
Yet they're still 5-0.
Yeah, did you think so? You were the one that breached the question that I immediately was like, no, but do you think they're one of the top 3 teams in the league?
I mean, they beat the Rams, who everyone was projecting as a top 5 team. They're undefeated. I mean, they have to be in the top 3 teams. I don't know how, because I view football from the fantasy perspective, and I don't want any players on this team in fantasy, which makes me, except for maybe George Kittle. Yeah. And I guess maybe Tevin Coleman, he might end up being
and
that,
if you have
that
an
top
IDP,
guy.
The defensive ends.
Sure, yeah, but it's very odd to me. Like, it's just
Jared Goff. Jared Goff is once again a big storyline of why this team cannot get things going from the Rams' perspective.
78 yards, period. That's it.
He goes from 60 attempts or whatever in the previous weeks, each week, to only 24. So guess what? It's still almost 50%, 13 to 24. Still around the 50% completion rate.
Here's the best part of the Jalen Ramsey trade. Jalen Ramsey goes there, and those fans, there was a clamoring this week, those fans wanted them to start Blake Bortles. So Jalen Ramsey goes to a team that then all of a sudden
Bortles.
starts Blake Bortles. And all of a sudden he's like in the twilight zone where they're terrible. And he's like,
my
wow.
God. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to get out of Goff. He shows up, then he doesn't. Let's not forget the 49ers defense is very good. They could have exposed him a lot. He's one of those guys where he's really good in his system.
How much of this do you think had to do with Todd Gurley not being in the game?
A lot.
Yeah.
This is I've said this every week. I think now given he was out this game, I think this was one of those games where I think every week they play Todd Gurley as if they think this is going to be a hard game. Okay, Gurley's going to get a ton of carries. We should beat this team. We're not going to give him a lot. I think this is one where they would have loved to have him, and they didn't. So they got exposed. I mean, this is what happened to them last year in the playoffs when Gurley couldn't play. The Patriots ran a defense that put Goff on the spot. Without play action, he couldn't do anything.
Without Gurley in this game, it looked like they were trying to do stuff with Malcolm Brown, and he just didn't look good. And they started some Henderson action. Henderson actually looked pretty good to the eye.
Yeah.
He didn't get an insane opportunities.
6.5 per carry. Yeah.
But this might start. We might start to finally see that Darrell Henderson or Darrell Henderson. I don't know what his first name is.
But it's weird because in the preseason he looked that way, and then they started the season and he didn't get any touches. So you kind of go, "What were you doing?"
It's very weird. It's very weird.
Yeah.
And their defense is riddled with injuries too. So the 49ers outscored them 20-7. I mean, 7's not good, but their defense still, that's not a ton of points. And
the Rams, though, they're 3-3. They can at least claim some faith in Jared Goff. Nothing like the Titans losing to the Broncos 16-0. Both teams are now 2-4.
Shut out too.
Mariota, Mary Zero. Top.
you know what's crazy is I didn't watch a ton of this game. I didn't know they got shut out. And then I looked at score and I was like, it's so rare you see a shutout in the NFL because it's
crazy.
Because it's so unacceptable. You all have the same means to do it. You shouldn't never score 0 points no matter how good the defense is. Yeah. I actually thought this, looking at them this week, I was like, have the Titans in week 1 when we watched them, me and you.
They looked great.
And they looked so good. They came out and just crapped on the Browns. And then every week, have they gotten worse?
Yep.
Every week they've regressed.
Offensively, defensively too.
They've regressed. And like it shows across the board stat wise, they have less sacks. I just blanked on the running back's name. Derrick Henry, less rush yards.
Do you know what his average per carry was this game?
He was like
1.9.
I was gonna overshoot at 2.1.
Yeah.
Both. I mean, every week they get worse. Their defense looks old. The Broncos, I don't have a lot, there. They also, I don't.
Titans, the one thing I have liked,
Titans
what I've seen
crazy.
is Harold Landry. Harold Landry's looked pretty decent.
I like A.J. Brown a lot. I don't think there's anybody to get him the ball. I actually like him as a receiver one. Their offense should be better with Vrabel's system. They're just not.
On the other side of the ball, Denver, Sutton he's the number one there now.
Yeah.
4 for 76, no touchdowns, 8 targets. Lindsey, 15 for 70 yards,
Lindsey's
1
still
touchdown.
looking very strong.
Yeah.
He's looking good.
But Freeman's getting in there too. So, but that's the highlights of the game right there. We don't have anything else other than that about what really stands out.
You know what's crazy too? Last year, towards the end of the year, the Broncos it looked like Sutton was going to be the big receiver and Deshaun Hamilton was going to be the 2. Deshaun Hamilton has disappeared.
Yeah.
He has no touches. And now given that maybe have something to do with Emmanuel Sanders being healthy, the Broncos are another one of these teams where is there a fire sale on their horizon at 2-4? Because they have a lot of pieces where they're not competitive now. Emmanuel Sanders can get you something.
This is Von Miller.
Von Miller can get you a lot.
He's got a big contract, though.
He's underratedly the best, if not one of the top 2 pass rushers in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think he's by far and away so dangerous. I think he's better than Khalil Mack, which is crazy, but I think he's that good. And I think it's just one of those things where we've kind of passed over on him because the team's just not good, and they're just doubling him, and like other guys in the defensive line get the scraps. He's so good. If I was another team, I would want him easy.
Yeah.
So if they, 2-4, they're not going to win. They clearly need a quarterback. Flacco's a Band-Aid. Do they fire sale?
I could see them doing it. Just like teams are going to be anxiously waiting to get some of these pieces.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at their offense. Sorry to cut you off, Jim.
It's all right. It was in my segue. No big deal.
Young Cortland Sutton, Deshaun Hamilton, Noah Fant, Phillip Lindsay are all under 25. Flacco's old as dirt.
Right.
They're getting their
second year.
But that's a nice. And Hoyce Freeman's like a kid.
Yeah.
You want a young quarterback. to go with that.
Well,
and build
they
in
have
the
Drew
future.
Lock. I mean, they're trying. Who knows? And then if it doesn't work out next year with Drew Lock, they just go get Trevor Lawrence the following year.
What?
But as people are anxiously awaiting to get
To Trevor Lawrence.
some of these pieces from the Broncos, Treb and I were anxiously awaiting to talk about the Cowboys this week.
I'm going to go to the bathroom.
No, well, yeah, that's the Cowboys. It's like going to the bathroom. Cowboys 22, Jets 24. Jets finally get their first win of the season, man. This was awesome for Jets fans to finally get that win. This may be their only win of the season, but it felt great. For Cowboys fans, total opposite. This is
It's rough.
it's like
The
going to the
pits.
bathroom.
The pits.
No, I would enjoy going to the bathroom a whole lot more than watching Dallas play football right now.
Well, and it was funny. I was all excited because if the Cowboys had beaten the Jets, you were going to come in here talking up the Cowboys, and I'd be like, well, they've only beaten teams with a combined 2 wins, but now they lost to one of those teams that only has 1 win. So yeah,
Dan is cringing,
Yo, it's
rubbing his
rough.
eyes right now.
I'm trying to come up with ways to defend them still.
You're
and there's
tied
not
for the
a whole
division
lot
lead.
Yeah, that's the
Why-
best we got.
I mean, Cooper got hurt during the game.
So this is what I've heard, and unfortunately, this is what Jerry Jones does. Is it's not all on Jason Garrett. Cooper was hurt. 2 tackles were hurt. With all those problems, you should still beat the Jets.
Yeah, but the Jets do have a decent enough defense.
And Darnold came back, and he
For
showed
that-
why he's
Yes.
was an early pick.
Agreed. And I agree with you guys on both fronts. To not show up at all against that, like, yeah, that defense is good. It should not have been good enough to stop the run and stop the pass game. And their defense should have been good enough to stop that offense. That offense, Darnold's a good player. Le'Veon Bell's, you should be, with that defense, you should be able to shut them down. I'm running low on excuses for the Cowboys. We'll hang our hats on those injuries. I don't know if you can, though, because that's the thing is the team will go as far as Dak can take them, and everybody was, you should pay him after that first game. Pay him now. Because he looks terrible.
Aren't you glad that they
He
waited
looks
to pay him
terrible,
now?
man.
Yeah.
He makes his throws are not. It's so funny that first 2 games, every throw was just like on a dime. Such good throws. This game, everything is, even when they caught it, it's a little behind. It's a little high. It's just not there enough to allow your receivers to run with the ball, to get the first down. It's tough. This was the whole thing with Dak. Is like, I like Dak, but this is why I don't think he should get all that money, because I think we do want him. I think you do want to sign him. And you want him to do what he did in the first couple games. And when he can't have those games and has these games, you run the ball. Somehow they couldn't run the ball at all. I'm not under the belief that those 2 tackles should have been that big an issue, but whatever.
I mean, it's the Jets. It's a
the
game they
Jets.
need to win.
They should have won that game.
They marked that as a win at the
Oh, yeah.
beginning of the year, and it was basically a home game for Dallas with how many Dallas fans were in New York. So, yeah, it's very surprising that I had this. I don't know who didn't have this marked as a win. This was a huge upset.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing is just looking at it, you went, if you're a Cowboys fan, it was, we dropped those 2. Let's get back on the winning track and then course correct this and beat the Eagles. To lose this game, me and my dad were saying, the only silver lining was we were convinced Jason Garrett would get fired after that game. And Jerry Jones immediately came out and was like, it wasn't his fault. And it's just like,
It was.
the problem runs so deep. And now they're talking about Lincoln Riley, and I'm like,
It's already starting.
they have Chris Richard, their defensive backs coach and defensive play caller, is their new head coach. Like, that should be it. And it'll be such the Cowboys thing to go, we'll get Lincoln Riley, and he'll bring him in from the college, and he'll not be that great. And Chris Richard will go to like the Falcons or something
And kill it.
Yeah.
So
So
Cowboys, they fall out of my top 10 after this loss. I'd say they're top 28 right now. Another team working its way into the top 28 is the Steelers. Their demise was heavily over-exaggerated. They end up beating the Chargers 24-17. Both teams are 2-4 now. Steelers defense looked pretty good.
yeah, I don't think
Devin Bush got hurt though.
Yeah.
Ouch.
I also don't think they climb. I mean, just because of how bad some of those teams are, from 28 to 32, they can kind of get out of there. They're still not good. And the Chargers are the more surprising thing. Like, the Steelers, we knew for a couple of weeks weren't good, like Trev said. Their defense is really good, but with Devin Bush hurt, that's a rough one. We have to see how long.
How long's
that'll take.
Bush out for?
We don't know.
Do we know what it is?
No. The Chargers, they're the same thing. Melvin Gordon comes back after his holdout and is nothing. Maybe the worst holdout ever.
It's like they lost their identity on offense
yeah.
once Melvin Gordon came back.
The only bright spot is Hunter Henry. He was awesome.
Beautiful.
So he's awesome. The Chargers, you're right, though. That's a really good way to put it. They seem like they've completely lost their identity. It isn't their defense is playing,
Keenan Allen was obviously getting like single coverage with something over the top, so they were avoiding throwing to Keenan Allen. So hence all the targets to Mike Williams and Hunter Henry.
They threw the ball 44 times. That's
too much.
That's crazy. 44 times, 320 yards. They only ran the ball 14 times and got 32 yards total.
It's crazy.
From Melvin Gordon, who's commanding top $3.
Yeah.
And Austin Eckler, who's looked really good. So
think about that. Melvin Gordon was like, I'm a top 3 running back. This game, his first game back, completely rested. He was 8 rushes for 18 yards.
Yeah.
Like, peace out contract. Should have taken that $10 million contract when they offered it and ran with it.
On the other side of the ball, running backs, you had Connor, looked great, got dinged up, but also Benny Snell came in and remedied some stuff.
Who said Benny Snell was going to be good in the draft preview? And then I was told that
it must have been me or Trev.
That was
it was probably one of us.
Their depth chart is way too muddied, and he's never going to get any playing time. Yeah.
Well, no, it was definitely Trev.
It was Trev.
And Jalen Samuels is out for the year, who's ahead of him.
But he looks good. He looked good.
He did. Yeah, he did. When he got his opportunity.
Yeah. If I'm the Steelers going forward, I mean, especially since you're on your third string quarterback, the whole like all those teams are always like, thunder and lightning, fast back, heavy back. If you have James Conner and Benny Snell just beating on defense, those are big running backs.
They should just focus it the rest of the year.
It'd be like thunder and thunder. That would suck.
It might be their only choice because their passing game is dead.
Yeah.
Juju Smith-Schuster had 1 reception for 7 yards.
It's just crazy.
On 4 targets.
Well, even Vance McDonald, who they were like,
this is their 4th string quarterback, basically.
Yeah, because
their first 2 got hurt and they traded away.
Dobbs. Yeah, that's a good point, Trev. Yeah, they had to re-sign this kid off of practice squad. It was hilarious. You see who his backup is? Paxton Lynch.
Wow.
I was like, why isn't he playing?
Yeah.
It seems like you'd want to play him. This kid's out of
I don't even know who Devlin Hodges is.
He was from Division III school, Samford.
Oh, wow.
It's not good.
Wow. That's
But
he got the win, though.
Yep, and you have those 2 running backs. They have some injuries on the offensive line.
Play calling's always pretty good in that team.
And the defense, like I said, that defense will hinge on if Devin Bush is out for a couple games. But they're still they have problems. Beat the Chargers. The bigger headline for me though is that Steelers win. Good for them. How are the Chargers that bad that they're losing to that beaten up Steelers team?
Yeah, Chargers did.
They should be winning.
I was very surprised by that performance by the Chargers. It seemed like a slam dunk win for me. They were going to come back, be 3-3. Pittsburgh looked bad. They traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick to improve their defense, but I didn't expect anything from them. So for them to come out and win was a big surprise.
What's the Chargers' record?
2-4.
Yeah,
I would have never thought that.
No.
In the beginning of the season, remember we were talking about teams that are who you thought they are. I think they are a 2-4 team from what they look at, but it just does. It's like the Falcons. It just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
They have so much weapons on defense and on offense. You watch that defense and it's Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa, and their secondary is good, and you're just, why are they losing to the Steelers?
Something's got to be lost. Part of the Melvin Gordon thing coming back, but this might be the final blow that needs to happen to the Chargers to move on from Phillip Rivers. Yeah, he's hanging on by a thread to try and get there, and it just doesn't look right.
Yeah, they had the saddest stat on him. He's the only quarterback ever to I don't know what the exact stat, to have the stats he has and never play in a Super Bowl. It's like this. It's so sad.
That's kind of sad
because it's like Dan Marino. They're like at least Dan Marino played. He lost, but he played in one. Phillip Rivers never even got to a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
he's. It ain't gonna be this year, unless something vastly.
Yeah, it'll end up being like Phillip Rivers Jr.
Yeah, probably.
But Hunter Henry, be excited if you have Hunter Henry because he finally looks like he's Hunter. He finally looks like the guy that everyone's talking about for the last
till he gets hurt
2 years.
Yeah,
that was a pretty lame Sunday night game. But we go to Monday night, and we actually get a nice game to watch. You have the Lions, Packers. Lions lose 22-23. Or maybe it's refs win 23-22.
I was going to say, it's a cool game to watch if you like the referees aggressively taking the game into their own hands.
I saw a great meme where it said, the winning team did a Lambo leap at the end. It was a picture of the referee doing a Lambo leap. Yeah, it's very... this has been an issue that we've been talking about a lot with referees getting it wrong, but this one, is brutal.
What was the most telling thing to me too, which kind of cracked me up because it was the team that won. David Bakhtiari, their left tackle, who was on Trey Flowers. Trey Flowers has never been called for hands to the face, ever. Never been called. he didn't do it, but David Bakhtiari went up to an official and said, hey, are we not calling hands to the face anymore? Because he's doing it, even though he wasn't doing it. Right. Bakhtiari tells the press this, tells the ref, and then right after he tells the ref, he calls the first one. And then calls another one later on, even though he didn't do it. Players, this is the problem, is like, and we've seen it before with quarterbacks, players shouldn't have that much influence to walk up to a ref and be like, you should call this.
And it immediately.
And then they do immediately.
Yeah.
That's crazy, especially when it's not like if they were like, yo, he's holding me and he was holding him, that's cool. But the fact that he's like lying and they're just like, oh, he must be telling the truth. Call it. Like I said, you can't have that sphere of influence on those refs. It should not be. I don't know if they need to go to a point where like the players can't talk to the refs. I think that should be kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Where I don't think players should be able to approach the referees. Like, the coaches maybe. So if a player has an issue, tell the coach can approach the line judge.
Or a captain can.
Yeah. It shouldn't be that every player can walk up to the ref and just demand anything they want. And then the refs go, oh, okay, I'll be looking out for that now. Like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Especially when it's not the penalty. And I said, it's like, none of the refs, it seems like, understand what the rules are for. I know that sounds ridiculous because they're refs, but they make those calls. That's not what hands to the face is for. The whole idea of hands to the face is like if it's aggressively up in their face and
not if it's like
them.
incidental.
But it's incidental. You don't need like I'm not saying you don't need to call it, but you don't even have to. It's like when they the play they always call when a guy goes up to bat the pass down and the hand comes down, touches a quarterback's head, and they're like, oh, hands to the head on the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's not the point of that rule. The point of the rule so no one's like ear holing or smacking the quarterback's head.
Right.
And they call it everything. It's like the least they could do is understand the reason behind the rule, why that rule's in place. And I don't feel like they do at all.
Yeah. It's sad. And the problem too is that the Bakhtiari thing you're talking about is crazy. And if the first time I watched the replay, I was like, oh yeah, it does look like hands to face because you look where his hands are positioned, and the guy's got his head up, making it look like it's worse than it actually is, and they probably threw the flag because it kind of looked at it. Then you rewatch it, you're like, wait, why is his head up? Like what? So I think part of it is the acting portion of football, showing through.
You know what's really funny too is my dad actually had my dad's 2 cents on this podcast. It's funny, they wouldn't have to admit it, but New York is in their ear, like for replays and stuff. When they all like grew up, because it takes them 30 seconds to make any call.
Yeah.
Now,
somebody can be watching.
Why is somebody in New York going, no, it's not a penalty?
Yeah.
It's definitely not a penalty.
They should do that.
They
if they're at this level.
They shouldn't say they're doing that because then everyone's going to be like,
yeah.
Oh, then why can't they just make every call?
Yeah, but why not? It seems fair. Like if they're going to take that time,
it's just going to slow down I think on plays like that, especially game-ending plays.
Yeah.
Somebody in New York has to be like, you need to pick that flag up. It's definitely not a penalty.
Right.
Like I said, I think for better or worse for the conversation, I think it would be better interest served for them if they didn't say that, because I think one of the other things too is optically, it would make them look better because they would get a lot of calls right and they'd be like, oh, they're making calls right on the field because we don't know that New York's like. Like, you know what I mean?
Optically, the stud running back of the Packers
getting back
had
to the actual game.
14 carries, 104 yards,
Williams.
0 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Jamal Williams. All you Aaron Jones truthers getting a little
Back
hurting
off.
going on.
Yeah, I mean...
Did you say Dak off or back off?
I like Dak off. That's good. The Green Bay backfield has always been very interesting because... for some reason, everyone was like Aaron Jones. But if you look at their snap percentages, when they're both healthy, it was very, similar. And then, Aaron Jones got more of the runs. Jamal Williams got more of the catches. And because of that, Aaron Jones would get a lot of touchdowns. But, yeah, I mean, he was the better running back this game for sure.
The Packers are tough right now. Like, they're 5-1. I think they're a legit 5-1 team. Their offense, similar to the Patriots, I'm not totally sold. I don't think Aaron Rodgers looks at all like Aaron Rodgers. I think he's still getting comfortable in that system. Their running backs, clearly, there's something to figure out there. Same thing with the receivers. Devontae Adams goes down. MVS kind of gets hobbled.
Geronimo Allison
goes down. So then all of a sudden
steps up big Alan Lazard.
The Lizard King. I have no idea what his nickname is. Hashtag Lizard King. It's just crazy. I was hoping MVS would show up, and then he got hobbled with the ankle. Geronimo Allison was out. And remember, Equanius St. Brown is still out. So they're down a lot in receiver, so you don't really know who to go with there. And it was funny listening to Aaron Rodgers talk after the game. He really likes Lazard. It was funny.
He likes every receiver.
But that's one of the things with Aaron Rodgers. He's so cerebral. That was one of the things I like about MVS is when he talks positively about his receivers. And that was one of the things he said. The kid Lazard always sat next to him in meetings, offensive meetings. Always was taking more notes than anybody else. He put in the time. He felt like he should give him a chance. And then if he comes through on said chance, he'll keep feeding the ball. And I'm like, that's the kind of quarterback Aaron Rodgers is.
Yeah.
So going forward will be interesting. It's tough to have anybody on the Packers just because it's so spread out. I started Jimmy Graham in a league this week.
Yeah, me too.
Because 2 weeks ago, Aaron Rodgers was like, I want to get Jimmy Graham more involved in the offense. He drops 2 passes, and he's pretty much done on Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, he's
You know?
over him. Yeah, it's. I mean, Devontae Adams is the only one I would want when he's healthy, but who knows when he's actually going to get healthy.
My hope is that eventually you want MVS, but it's now
Spreads the ball
where I
so
thought.
much.
Yeah, I don't know. And then on the other side of the ball, the Lions, they don't. I thought they were going to spread out like when we first talked. They don't. It's all Galladay.
Yeah, Galladay is confirmed.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we waited to see for the Lions. Somebody to step up. It seems like they try to force it to be Hawkinson in the end zone at times.
Yeah.
And it's not quite there yet. It will be, it feels like, eventually. But, it's just, Galladay's all that they have. Kerryon Johnson is still a letdown. He's been a letdown his whole career so far. I don't know if this is a product of overhyping from fantasy nerds all over the place, because I think that this is kind of what occurred. It seemed like the opportunity was there.
Yeah.
Isn't that like the Lions running backs all the time? Is we always hype them up in fantasy and then they don't pan?
Kerryon's better than Amir Abdullah, though.
Yeah, and most of those situations where Detroit was a backfield committee, whereas Kerryon Johnson is getting almost all the carries.
That's a good point.
But yeah, I mean, he hasn't had great weeks this year. Last year he had a couple big weeks, and it looks like he was leading up to something. And then they're like, okay, he's going to get the ball a lot this year. And, he's been getting the ball. It just really hasn't
Feels like
out.
a lot of dry humping without, like...
Sure, if
any
you want to look at
reward.
it that way, yeah.
That's one way of putting it, I guess.
One way of
Yeah.
putting it, for sure. That's a good way to...
But yeah, I mean, the Lions receiving core is always kind of funny because to me, it's like Marvin Jones will always get 4 catches a game. Yep. And maybe he'll score a touchdown. And if he scores a touchdown, he'll perform good. Yeah. Hawkinson fills that tight end role that Ebron was in for so many years where it's like 4 to 5 catches. And then Galladay's the number 1, but he could catch 8 or he could catch 3, and it's... And
Amendola actually got hurt, so
yeah,
he's not a super accurate representation.
But basically every player on the Lions is just touchdown dependent.
Yeah.
Galladay, I guess he had 5 for 121 this week, which was pretty good, but generally it's, touchdown or bust.
And I like the Lions. I actually think they play... I thought Patricia would be on the hot seat by the end of this year. They seem like they really play hard for him, defensively and offensively.
I think he's going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
We have, it's almost the halfway point after this week. It will be a little bit past it. And some people are rounding into the playoffs, and then we have a lot of other people battling in or out of it. We've got Shane at 6-0. Markoff's at 5-1.
Crazy.
That's ridiculous.
We have Dane 4-2. Trebbing 3-3. Betancourt 3-3. And Dan Morshauser at 4-2. Right now, you guys are in the playoffs. But everybody else is 2-4 except for AJ, who's 1-5. So any of those 3-3s can flop. There's a lot that can change here. Right now, the only strong takeaways are Shane and Matt. Surprisingly, not Dane right now.
And me.
I said surprisingly not Dane.
Yeah, and me.
Yeah, surprisingly not.
I'm just saying. Top 3 points scored. Hardest schedule.
Are you in first place in your division?
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a tough division you're in.
I have a better record than you, and I beat you.
Trev, if you were 3-3, you'd be in first place in our division.
You don't? Do you?
I think so. I did last week.
I do think, the Betancourt thing is the biggest surprise. The Dane thing's not surprising just because Saquon's been hurt. Shane's team's good. That's the thing. That's what you're going to get out of McCaffrey right now.
A lot's going to change.
Yeah.
There's still a couple teams are going to move up. A couple teams are going to move down.
And also, Saquon's coming back.
Saquon's coming back. You think when Drew comes back, Kamara goes back to the share that he was getting in the Drew-based offense. So you like that a lot more. We're into the buys now, so you're going to see some games where people could lose games that they shouldn't lose if they had a lot of buys, as where you really had your strongest lineup in up till maybe not this week, but there wasn't a ton of buys this week. But now you're going to see teams where like I'm playing Jim this week and I have 4 people on buy, so I got to fill those spots. So it'll be interesting. Some teams might get caught. Markoff's the biggest surprise to me. I still don't. I don't know how he's 5-1. I got nothing.
Yeah, I mean his points for is still pretty low. So
fortunate matchups.
That's part of fantasy though.
Totally.
Hitting those matchups at the right time. But yeah, I mean he's got a couple players that's DJ Chark.
I'm not
been
saying
carrying his team.
And his defense is actually really good. He covers a lot of ground. Like his defense is consistently scoring, averaging probably like 8.5 to 10 a person, and it doesn't really dip, which is a huge thing because if you don't have those holes, you're starting off with 80 points right there.
Right. Yeah.
So that's always good. And he has a couple linebackers. I know he has Kuechly and I forget who's the other linebacker.
Leonard.
Like it's those guys can have 20 to like if they have a sack and 13 tackles, they'll have 20-point games, no problem. As defensive players, that's a good thing to have at linebacker. So
it's going to be an awesome week. Everybody, good luck, enjoy. Everybody except Dan.
Best team in the league. You guys are downplaying how good my team is. It's ridiculous.
You are not the best team in the league.
No, Shane is, but I'm the second best team in the league.
You are not the second best team.
Who do you think the second best team in the league is?
Dane.